Hello and welcome to Hold Up, a movie podcast. Last time we perused the non-existent pages of prehistory. This time, after a time, we analyze the annals, tiptoe through the timelines while trying not to step on anything. Come along with us on a trip not to where, but when, because we press on forward and hopefully find a way back. For tonight, our theme is time travel. I am your host, Davan Skelhorn, and with me as always, my co-host, Chris Worldmind Murphy. How you doing, Murphy?
Oh, I'm primed to have a good time, and if you're lost, you can look and you'll find me right here on Hold Up a Movie Podcast. Looking after time. Here
After
with Jeff
time.
Mader. Hey.
Guest, Jeff Mader, my cousin of the show, everyone's cousin here on this network.
Cousin Jeff. Oh, from the
Yeah,
Jeffries
cousin
too.
Jeff from the Jeffries tube. Named those tubes named after this very Jeff. See, some people don't know that. This is season 1, episode 19, our penultimate episode of the season. You know, unless too many time shenanigans happen, and then who knows where we'll end up. But it's supposed to be our penultimate episode, and it's on time travel, so that's fun. Timey-wimey shenanigans here. Why did you want to get in on timey-wimey shenanigans, Jeff?
I always enjoy time travel stories because I always find them to be like great mysteries, and I like mysteries. I'm a big I like Sherlock Holmes stuff, and which is very interesting because Time After Time kind of delves into that a little bit. I like mystery science fiction stories, and especially when like Star Trek did it, and I find some of the best storytelling can be done with time travel.
Interesting. Well, we have another segment. You may or may not know this, Jeff. Our listeners certainly do, and it's called Origin Stories.
Oh,
so Jeff, what's with you and movies?
What do you mean? Like, what? Why do I like movies, or like how did I get into movies?
It's as vague a question as you want it to be, hence the way I put it. But you can take it that way if you want. Everyone takes it a little bit differently.
What's with me in movies?
Who did it offend? That question right offended somebody.
It was Kevin Millard that offended.
Oh yeah, Kevin. Yeah, Kevin just goes.
What does that mean?
What? Whereas, like on the very next episode, Adam thought it was like the greatest question ever. So
it's a very
what's
personal
with you
question.
in movies?
It's very personal. That's why Kevin probably didn't like it.
Maybe.
Because I would say that for me with movies is, I kind of started like really getting into movies when I was like 8 or 9 years old. We'd go to the cottage over in Enfield.
Oh, yes.
And we would watch pretty much the same 3 movies over and over. I think it was Mission Impossible, the first one, Titanic, and then there was one other one. Oh, I think it was Sound of Music or something. It was something like that, but I never watched that. So I watched. President? Oh, American President might have been on there too. Yeah.
I bet it was.
My mother loved that movie.
She did.
Yeah. So, and then I kind of, because I have 2 older brothers, and I know you were alluding to Dave Mader, my oldest brother.
We like to poke at cousin Dave on this show.
Cousin Dave. He kind of got me into a lot of these science fiction based style stories, and that's kind of like you asked why I wanted to do time travel, and I think that's kind of the genesis of it. He would show me a lot of the older Star Trek movies. I mean, A Voyage Home is very much a time travel story.
Yeah, could have picked that one. That's a good one.
Could have picked that one. We already did like a whole recap of that one, so I kind of wanted to pick the movie I picked this time because I remember I watched it actually well after it came out, not at the time when I started watching movies, probably in about 2006 or 7. And I was like, this movie is amazing. We never had it on VHS, but I really loved it. And I think these type of stories are so interesting to rewatch. There's something you can get out of a time travel story each time you watch it, no matter how many times you do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I would say for like why movies with myself. It's that was kind of the genesis for it for me. And then I got into more heady movies and like a Primer, which we're gonna end up talking about.
Yeah, Primer,
Nice.
like, yeah. Anyway, we'll get into that one. Um, but look, I on different levels enjoyed all these movies. So why don't we talk about them? Over in Theater One, we have Time After Time from 1979, starring Malcolm McDowell, Mary Steenburgen, and David Warner. Directed by Nicholas Meyer. Like, what a bunch of Star Trek connections here. We got Soren, Malcolm McDowell, we've got Gul Madred, David Warner, directed by Nicholas Meyer, who wrote, I believe, and directed Undiscovered Country. Man, this is Star Trek royalty here.
You also get some Back to the Future, people. Mary Steenburgen, of course, was in Back to the Future 3 and plays a very similar kind of role, I find, in that movie to this movie as well.
I liked her in this, and honestly, she never really blows me away. I'm usually like, I see she's in a movie, I don't rush to see it usually because she's always just fine. But I found her quite charming in this.
My first introduction to Mary Steenburgen was from the show The Last Man on Earth. That's where I like really resonate with her in my brain. So it's always fun to like go back and watch these films from the past and find her just kind of popping up and looking fabulous as all hell. She looked gorgeous in this film.
She did, yep.
Yeah. But yeah, no, on the point of Star Trek, like you said, yeah, Nicholas Meyer definitely he did parts of Wrath of Khan, and there's actually a deleted scene in this movie that involved H.G.Wells dealing with a punk listening to loud music on a bus, but they took it out and they ended up using it in Star Trek Voyage Home.
Would have
Yeah.
got it in there too. That's all right. Well, why don't we?
But Nicholas Meyer didn't direct Voyage Home. But did he write it?
No, he. So let me see. Yeah, he wrote the Voyage Home.
He wrote it.
That's what he did. Yeah, he ended up writing it.
Star Trek royalty, that Nick Meyer. Tell you. Good stuff there.
All
right. Well, why don't we get into Time After Time? Our first one, H.G. Wells. What a interesting idea for a love story. I mean, I'm usually not big on the romance movies, but this one kept my interest with the time. Like I guess you say, Jeff, but they add a little timey-wimey shenanigans, and it kind of adds a bit of mystery and intrigue to an otherwise probably pretty bland plot.
I think it makes you think of different possibilities and different timelines, and you can imagine kind of whatever you want out of a time travel story, and I kind of like that. I like that idea, and I also am a big history nut. So just to see like a depiction of, like, for instance, here the late 1800s in London, I always enjoy that.
And it looks good. I mean, some of the fog is a bit much. Like the fog that's just steaming out of that alley is pretty hilarious.
So yeah, the story unfolds in 1983, London, England, where we find celebrated writer Herbert George H.G. Wells, portrayed by Malcolm McDowell, unveil his remarkable invention, a time machine. I can say that, to a group of incredulous dinner guests with amazing mutton chops. The mutton chops were on full display in this film, and I was just thrilled. So many mutton chop moments from just.
That's why we have muttons with mercy.
5 minutes, great stuff. Just thorough, bushy, well framed. Even Jack the Ripper had one. Not a big fan of bad guys having mutton chops. I feel like it puts a bad image on mutton chop wares, but it is what it is. So yeah, Wells.
Hey man, bad guys always have short hair. What can I say?
Well, when everybody in the scene has a mutton chop, one is bound to be a bad guy.
It's true.
Wells explains the intricate workings of his creation, including its non-return key and the vaporizing equalizer. However, the evening takes an ominous turn when police constables arrive investigating the notorious serial killer Jack the Ripper. And suspicions fall on John Leslie Stevenson, played by Stephen Warren.
David Warner.
David Warner. Yeah, sorry, David Warner. David Warner. Yeah, a friend of Wells and obviously a surgeon, who just so happens. So the plot thickens, and Stevenson manages to escape using Wells' time machine, catapulting himself into the future. I was a little disappointed with how long it took him to figure out like where he went. It almost took him like the rest of the evening to be like, wait, he took my time machine. It's like you just showed him this. Like the plot points in this film were loose, but it was like placed together well enough that it was still entertaining and fun. So
it's not a big thinker. Like a lot of the science in the first two movies really bother me, and the science in the last movie is just picture perfect. But anyway, you just gotta let it go.
Varying degrees of
about
science.
H.G. Wells.
Wells, determined to bring Stevenson to justice, embarks on a perilous pursuit through time, leading him to November 5th, 1979. Before he leaves, obviously, he has to gather his jewels and all the things. He basically ransacks his house lady maid thing. I assume she's a housemaid. I don't know. Every period piece seems to have some old woman that just lives in the house for no random reason.
They take care of the house. There's a lot of dusting that had to be done back in those days.
Housekeeper.
Housekeeper.
Sherlock Holmes had one.
Someone has to keep the fire going, or else the pipes freeze. I mean, you probably don't have pipes, but things freeze.
Wait, so how did he did he have to build a new time machine after Ripper?
No, it came back.
No,
because he didn't have the
key.
David Warner didn't have the key.
Right.
Yeah, he had the key in his pocket, and without the key, the machine sort of resets. So much like the film Primer, where they have the autosave feature with the box, the machine resets and goes back to its original starting point. And
it is kind of funny that they made the writer of the novel The Time Machine actually have a time machine and make a movie about that.
Yeah, I really like the twist. I saw the trailer for this film and I'm like, this is going to be good. Like, there's a ton of great time films, but I've never seen this one, and I was like, the concept's too good to pass up. So yeah, H.G. Wells is just like stammering through the museum, just like enamored. It reminded me of the scene actually from Doctor Who, where Van Gogh walks through the museum and he's just like enamored that people are looking at his art, although that scene is far more touching than this scene, which was kind of played off in a sort of light comedic way.
Most things are in this movie. It doesn't take itself very serious.
H.G. ends up, passing through the city of San Francisco in 1979. He ends up doing a bit of trading of cash as when he eventually clues into the idea that he needs to go to foreign exchanges, and he might get clued on to where Jack the Ripper is gone. He stops in a McDonald's, tastes some fries, and comments, "This is the strangest wood I've ever seen."
That Scottish place, as he calls it.
Yeah, that Scottish place.
I went to that Scottish place, and it wasn't very good.
Yeah, he mentions how it's like the strangest wood he's ever seen because plastic wasn't invented in his time, and he's used to like ivory and shit. This is when he goes to the jeweler, and the jeweler's like, "You've got $6,000 worth," and he's like, "I'll take 4," and he's like, "I can't do that without ID," and then he ends up selling it at a pawn shop for like $400, I think, and just kind of rolls with it. Like he got gypped so hard for that money.
He doesn't care though. He's just like,
Why does he need ID to sell it? I don't understand.
Because they don't. Because
you need ID.
In case it's stolen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't want. He said it's like, I can't take this if it's hot. He's like, what do you mean hot?
Yeah, right. It's stolen, right? Yeah.
So that's where we're introduced to Mary Steenburgen's character, who is played Amy Robbins. So Wells is
interesting twist with that name too. Like that was H.G. Wells' real life wife's name.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
the little
Yeah.
the tag along at the end of this movie. Anyway, so yeah, Wells gets clued in that Jack the Ripper was through here, and she suggests that he hands the Hyatt Regency or whatever. So this is where we actually get Davin's favorite scene. Also, I forgot to play the trailer, but we're gonna skip that. It's fine.
What's up, Doc?
I beg your pardon?
You were saying where to?
Could you please take me as quickly as possible to the Hyatt?
Book it. He's never gone so fast in his life. The old video's not keeping up there. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I just thought that was kind of funny, just because he had
culture
seen
shock
cars
involved
before,
there.
but yeah, a little culture shock there. It was either gonna be that or like the little chase scene he has with Jack the Ripper, and they like go down the elevators, yeah, and stuff.
So yeah, he ultimately finds Jack the Ripper at the hotel, and these two have a very like thorough conversation about like violence and how he thought his sort of perfect world would. It didn't turn out what Wells thought. What basically all us positive futurists think the future will be. The film delves into the themes of violence and societal change as Stevenson confronts the stark contrast between his past and a modern world. The dramatic confrontation between Wells and Stevenson unfolds, resulting in a struggle for control of the time machine.
Do you know what
Like,
this?
it
do you
is-
know what, sorry. Do you know what this scene
You go ahead.
So you know what this scene reminded me of? I kept thinking about it when I was watching. It was actually kind of. It might have been my second favorite scene in the movie. It reminds me a lot of the interrogation scene in The Dark Knight. Like H.G. Wells is kind of like Batman, and Jack the Ripper is like the Joker, and like he's talking all about like Joker's talking all about like that this is the way people are, and they and I want to just show people like that's what the way it is, and this is my playground, like this is where I belong, I'm home, he says says that to him. And H.G. Wells is like people are willing to believe in good. And I just kept thinking about that scene because it's it's the two forces kind of colliding here with each other.
Yeah.
I take it back. That silly little car scene was not my favorite scene. My favorite scene is when he points out that he thinks it's going to be it's kind of split up. It's not one scene, but I like the idea that he thinks it's going to be a utopia.
Right.
And even when he gets there and it's like it's clearly not. He still thinks it's a utopia for a while. Just that it's very strange. He thinks this utopia is very strange for a utopia. But he still believes it's definitely, of course, a utopia by then. And then, of course, they find out that it's a lot more like Jack the Ripper's kind of place. And that whole juxtaposition, I think, was probably my favorite part of the movie. Not really a scene.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, these guys end up, struggling for the key, and it takes them through the streets where, HG chases them. You get this funny scene where, like, HG's at one bridge, and then, like, 5 blocks down the road, Jack's at the other bridge, and they're like, do I go this way? 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 Before they all decide to just, like, head to the left. I was, like, laughing really hard at that scene. I thought it was the most ridiculous, but it was just too funny. It's like, you guys are so far apart.
Yeah, their little chase scenes were hilarious. And then, he just gets smoked by a car.
Yeah, absolutely just creamed by a car. And then H.G. Wells takes him to a hospital because he's afraid for his friend's death, who's also a surgeon. So naturally, the surgeon's going to wake up. This is my headcanon. He woke up, signed his own death warrant, and then dipped, And that's what
Yeah,
he's
maybe.
basically, H.G.'s getting the notes like, oh, he died, sweetie. And he's like, what? oh geez, and then he wanders the streets where he runs into Amy Robbins outside the bank she works
He
at.
likely
of all places.
he also maybe just killed somebody and put that body there.
That's another headcanon I thought too. He's like, he definitely killed somebody and then just left.
Yeah, he probably just killed somebody. Yeah.
Oh, so that's probably adds to the body count because when I was reading, there's like they only counted the women that he killed, but nobody ever considered that extra body with the one that he would have traded places with.
His John Doe.
That's the thing about time travel movies. Somebody almost always dies.
Yeah, kind of odds of paradox.
Well,
or does it?
Don't mess with time.
Time has a way of messing back.
It does. So do spheres.
Don't go in.
We'll get there.
So yeah, Amy and H.G. attempt to avert a grim future. I'm just getting it. Anyway, these two end up going on a bit of a date, which kind of reminded me of Lord, I have the worst short-term memory. That spy film that we watched, one with the plane, North by Northwest. That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of
like
that,
the
like,
train
dinner
scene.
Yeah, but not
Kinda.
nearly as spicy. Like it was
like,
nice,
not
but
as
it wasn't
charming
as
as
like,
Cary Grant.
Yeah, yeah. So it was an alright scene.
Sorry,
It went on a
Malcolm
bit
McDowell.
long.
Like Malcolm McDowell was just kind of okay in this role. He didn't really wow me.
Yeah, no, Mary Steenburgen like acted her ass off, and
She did.
And
And so did David Warner.
yeah, David.
He was
Warner
actually
was
kind of intimidating and scary. He's like,
yeah, he's a great.
He's scary in Titanic.
He's scary. in a lot
he's
of
scary
things.
and everything. Yeah,
He's just a scary man.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get these two sort of like wandering through the woods. The discussion, I believe, was she's talking about her past and his past relationships, and basically this is what led to my favorite scene. A bit of this scene, and I think the other one is basically
I'm
these
also
two scenes together.
divorced for similar reasons.
She wanted you to be a housewife?
She wanted me to be routine.
To be routine, like that one.
Well, that is one thing you definitely are not. I don't know what it is. First I thought it was your voice, or maybe your clothes. Now I don't know. Maybe it's that kind of little boy lost quality you give off. Brings up my maternal instincts.
You're very perceptive. Lost is what I am.
Lost is what I am.
No.
Watching this film. Let's hide behind.
Yeah, that part made me laugh too. He's just scared shitless of all the gun sounds and stuff. Yeah.
It's only a movie.
It's only a movie.
Yeah.
So I got a question. I think Nick? I don't know if this is true, but I think Nicholas Meyer also wrote some old episodes of TOS. And did he possibly write that episode where everyone calls everyone Herbert? Maybe that guy's just got a really fascination with Herbert.
I didn't know he wrote any TOS episodes. Maybe.
He also,
And I'm pretty sure it's Nick Meyer.
Meyer.
he also has a fascination with San Francisco because this movie's set in San Francisco, which is very strange because considering it starts in London, and then also Voyage Home is in San Francisco, and it's also a time travel movie. It's just like, why San Francisco? Like, I don't get it.
True, they
Okay,
time
so-
traveled, but also traveled through space to San Francisco.
Well, okay. Here's my thought behind
Oh
that. Like,
no,
that
it's because
could
that's where
play
the
out.
museum was, right?
Yeah, that's where the museum was. Like they took his ship and put it in the museum. This time machine. They put it in the museum. That's just like the plot reasons. But I actually have a kind of like headcanon theory is in the fact that because of where the position of the Earth would be at the time of like
I thought about that
1893,
too, but it's very more likely he would end up in the friggin' ocean. Like there's like a friggin' 80% chance he's ends
there's
up
larger,
in the friggin'
then,
ocean.
and then in the ocean or just in space in general, but like we'll just say he like
And not in a
got the
basement.
math off,
Like,
but
he would
lucky
be-
enough to land up.
But why would? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. There's definitely some stuff in this movie you're just like, what? But you just kind of forget about it because it just keeps moving. It's well paced for a movie from 1979.
It looks very pretty too. Like it's like really,
Yeah.
it's a pretty movie to watch. I find it because like I really enjoyed it because I'm like, wow, you actually get to see what like the streets of San Francisco look like at that time, and in like in good quality. A lot of movies I find from even in the late '70s, I don't find look this nice. So that's
Yeah,
that was a plus.
Well, they had a decent budget for this film, surprisingly.
spent it all on that
I
suit.
gotta admit-
People kept commenting on what a great suit it was.
Right.
hell of
I
a
gotta
suit.
admit, watching this was like, Malcolm
Awkward.
Dowell. I don't think he knows how to kiss well. He's very sloppy and awkward, and it's like, like
Worked on her, didn't it?
For me. Worked on her.
Didn't they
Yeah,
get married?
certainly did. They did.
They also got divorced.
But yeah, I found that was probably my least favorite scene in the movie. Actually, it was just very awkward. And I'll tell you what another reason why that was my least favorite scene in the movie. So
Are we talking about the kissing or the?
he goes through time, and when they hook up there, because he goes through this time machine where it got super hot and he was like sweating balls, right? So first he was sweating balls in this suit, and then he goes through a bunch of chases. So he's running in this suit for like hours.
Corduroy suit.
Because it's just chase after chase. Never once does he shower. And now he's hooking up with Mary Steenburgen. He would smell awful. She must be into stinky sex or
Also-
something, because otherwise it makes no sense. I just wanted a 5-second scene where she's just like, oh, go take a shower. Or he goes and has a shower. We just
Okay.
needed like a 5-second shower scene in there
If
because this
you-
is disgusting.
If you think about that, you've also got to add the accumulation of his 1800s funk that probably wasn't showered that well,
Exactly.
He would bath. He would only
just
bath.
Smell awful.
right?
Like just awful.
I think he would be like perplexed by a shower. Wouldn't he? I guess.
Yeah, true.
That would have been a funny scene, actually.
Yeah. We needed that scene. It would be less gross and yeah.
Because like right
Or maybe
behind him.
he's
This is.
kinda-
I didn't know that there were
he's
electric
figuring out how to use the
toothbrushes.
electric toothbrush. Yeah,
In
neither did I. I was
1979?
kind of surprised at that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, wait, they
Yeah,
were
I
there.
had a
It
finger-
clearly
yeah.
plugs straight into the wall, which is like exciting. Straight
I just
charge
started
to the
using an
brain.
electric toothbrush like this year for the first time, and I'm just like, my God, where have you been all my life? They're amazing.
Dude, I know. I started using one like a few years ago, and I will never go back. It is the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, little Amy Robbins here. She's glowing. She's telling her coworker, "I'm having the best time. We should do a double date." And that's when Jack comes back because he wants to do a little more exchanging.
I just
She
love his
clearly
outfit,
figures-
man. He just looks so funny. He's just like
He's
trying to be like
stylish, though. I liked
hipster
it.
Jack. Like, yeah,
I was
man,
disappointed
hipster
he shaved the
Jack is
mutton
here.
chops, but I understand.
Jack the hipster.
Jack.
Check the hipster. and I don't even think she's like spitting. She's just horny. Like she even says to him in the diner scene, she's like, "I just am looking to have sex." Basically is what she says to him. And she's like, "But I need to
Yeah.
like the guy."
Yeah.
So can I like you? And he's like, I don't know. It's like, that whole scene was
I'm not
hilarious.
an idiot.
He's just weird and awkward. Like you just
Yeah.
don't know why she likes him the whole time. He's just very
Well,
strange and awkward. Not
yeah, she's like,
particularly
"You're s-
charming.
You're
like-
shy, so that activates my mommy urges. It's like,
Yeah, oh yeah, she does say that. doesn't she? She's pretty good in this movie, I would say.
Right.
She's very funny.
So she breaks it to H.G.Wells that Jack the Ripper's here. He eventually clues into the fact that she's the one that mentioned the hotel, and he, uses his deductive Sherlock Holmes skills to put it all together that he's the H.G. Wells connection.
When he leaves, it
so
just
he takes-
comes right back there all of a sudden, though. That was creepy. man.
Yes! It was creepy, but it was also funny because he would have had to walk around the giant
I know, it's
desk
like-
and then go behind
It
it,
is.
and then sneak up behind her and just be like,
Yeah.
"Let Henry."
He does it in
know
like
I'm
a second.
here."
Like,
Yeah, it's all
It-
happens
it
like
ki-
within a flash of a second.
And again, kind of
Like, this-
reminded me of The Dark Knight when the Joker's doing that to Rachel. Like I was like, what's going on? You know,
This
she's just
movie's
like
basically
paralyzed.
The
Now I
Dark
got
Knight.
these
It's the Dark
scars.
Knight. Yeah,
It's
exactly.
The Dark Knight, starring
turns out to be
H.G.
the
Wells
proto-Dark
instead of
Knight.
Bruce Wayne. It's like,
Yeah,
what's the difference, really?
The time machine's the Batmobile. Yeah.
Yep.
That's how I watched this movie, guys. Here's him with
Mary
Detective
Steenburgen's
Gordon.
Catwoman.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's trying to explain to
Yeah.
Gordon that he's from previous in time and he's H.G. Wells and but here's the caveat: he's actually Sherlock Holmes.
Right.
That's gonna
Yeah,
solidify
yeah.
your story.
Because he doesn't
Call
think they'll
yourself
know
Sherlock
that name.
Holmes.
It's so funny. So they probably don't know he's from that obscure novel I read once. Like, yeah.
So yeah, he
That
gets
was
this
pretty funny.
note from Jack where he's like, "I know
Yeah.
where you are. I know where where she is.
Well,
Give
Commissioner
me the
Gordon
key
here
and I'll kill
sucks
her."
though. Like, he just sucks. So he blows it by like 10 minutes. He's like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't believe you like 10 minutes earlier. Sorry about that."
Also, the handwriting on that note before was very good. I mean, it would be.
It's
Very
very
good.
elegant, right?
1800s, man. People actually cared.
Incredible
Like,
penmanship.
letter writing was a skill. an
So yeah,
art,
we're down by
really.
the pier and docks here, where basically H.G. Wells is telling Amy, the whole kit and caboodle, the whole spiel, if you will. This is where we get Jeff's favorite scene.
This is a good scene.
Please, Amy, listen to me.
I have listened to you, and a bigger crock of shit I never heard. Look, I don't know if you're crazy or what, but anyway, I don't care. Just go back to whatever hole you crawled out of. Go back to your machine.
Amy. Wait, Amy! 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 Amy, what if I can prove that what I've told you is true?
Perfect.
But what if? Won't you give me that chance? I know I sound mad. Don't you think I knew how you'd respond? Didn't I say yesterday that when you knew, you wouldn't believe me?
And I said I would.
I said I would.
She did.
That was a great line.
Yep.
Things are happening.
She's just such strange delivery in this movie. Like, she came up with this kind of like unique character.
Yeah, the crock of shit I never heard.
Crack of shit I never heard. It's like, it's very strange.
It's like she's so upset she can't even say the words, and so it's very well done. Like, in a way, like it's bold, but it's definitely like I'm sure the director was like, I don't know if I want to make you do that again, but no, it's good.
I just remember like a line that like apparently Marina Sirtis or something said like during Picard season 3 when Michael Dorn was doing a scene or something, and she just walks in, she just goes, "Whoo, some heavy acting going on in here." Like, I just feel like there was like some heavy acting going on from Mary Steenburgen in this movie.
Yeah, oh yeah, she's carrying those pivotal scenes, I would say.
Yeah.
Malcolm McDowell's kind of just like leading the scene along, but Mary's bringing the fire.
Yeah.
So yeah, after that scene, basically they head to the place where he has all the proof that he's H.G. Wells, including pictures of himself.
I mean, that's all the proof. He just has pictures. Like, he could have put those there.
Pretty much.
Like,
I mean, that solidifies it. Like, that's a pretty good sell. I also like the bit earlier when he first shows up and his glasses are all broken and he walks by his desk and he kind of looks around and then he just he palms into a certain drawer and he's got a second pair of glasses like any good person that wears glasses would. Yeah. I like that scene. That was a fun little bit. We're also introduced to, I believe, is that supposed to be Mary? Yeah, it's supposed to be. No, it's just one of those another.
It's one of his
hooker
victims.
that they're trying
It's
to
her
save.
friend.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No.
She invites her friend over.
So I think he gets his third victim, and then he gets his fourth victim at a club. Because she starts to understand that he's telling the truth. They're actually gone to time because they went ahead to Saturday or something like that, and she saw
a week,
newspaper. Yeah. So she has a mental breakdown about the fact that time is flexible. And then he starts
Especially in
figuring
this
out,
movie. Time is very
Yeah.
flexible in this movie.
That's when they
Just
figure
ask David Warner's
oh,
sprinting skills.
we know where the next victim will be. They try to get the cops there, but that ends up not really going down either.
Yeah.
Because the cops are
Commissioner
not believing him
Gordon's
because he
not
keeps
the
saying he's
best.
Sherlock Holmes, right?
Yeah.
They had a
Well,
plan
he already blew his
where
credibility
Amy's
with them because
he's Sherlock
he's just
Holmes,
like, all right, I'm not Sherlock Holmes, I'm H.G.Wells. It's like, okay, buddy, who else are you?
Tell us your so they think he's
That's
responsible for the
S-Holmes.
murders.
Holmes.
He goes to the pawn shop and gets a gun. Heads back to Amy's place, where she's like passed out on a bunch of she took a bunch of NyQuil. I'm gonna say I forget exactly what sedative she took, but she
Back
took
in
a
those
bunch.
days, geez, who knows?
Yeah. So yeah, he gets busted, and this is again reminiscent of The Dark Knight, where he's like trying to plead with, Commissioner Gordon to go back and save Mary, where she's going to be killed. She wakes up sort of almost too late. She's about to leave, and that's when Jack the Ripper shows up, and then you get this like scene where the cops show up and Buddy vomits, and then they like cut, and it's just like a hand on the floor with a bit of blood. Very low quality, nothing crazy, but you find out that was her co-worker, because her co-worker had shown up and Amy had gotten away, but she's still got a knife to her throat because Jack the Ripper's on their tail. This is basically turning into the climax of the film. There's the whole like confrontation. He starts running the time machine because he's got the key from H.G. Wells, but he's has figured out how to drive, so he's driving. My favorite little Easter egg is the Wayne and Garth Gremlin. Is basically what the vehicle that she owned. It was the Wayne and Garth Gremlin without the paint job.
The Murphmobile?
The little Murphmobile. So yeah, we get to watch H.G. Wells drive that bad boy. He's like, give me the key, fine, leave her be. He hands over the key, and that's okay. I don't have all the screenshots here, but basically,
No, he jumps in the time machine.
Yeah, he jumps in the time machine, and that's when H.G. Wells grabs the vaporizer. He basically pulls the plug.
Just removes the vaporizer. Yes.
Yeah, the shiny crystal that he gave a kiss to earlier, pulls it out and vaporizes Jack the Ripper into the ether of time. I feel like it could
your
open
body
up to a sequel.
transports without the machine, without that piece.
Yeah.
Like,
So without the vaporizing equalizer.
Why didn't Jack the Ripper kill Amy?
I guess he didn't care, but yeah, why would he was a murderer, and that's his whole thing. I
Yeah.
don't know.
That was
I
kind
felt
of
like
my
he was going to, yeah. I assume they probably just didn't do it because it's a 1979 film, but I think he handed over the key because he was also supposed to be friends with H.G. Wells, so I guess he didn't want to hurt his friend. So it's a very Hannibal-esque sort of take on H.G. Wells and Jack the Ripper. So yeah, basically at that point, Jack the Ripper's gone. They're like, well, I've got to go back to time. And she's all like, but I can't go with you. But I got to go with you. Don't you leave without me. And he's like, okay, are you sure? And she's like, yep. And then we get this bit at the end where H.G. Wells married Amy Catherine Robbins, who died in 1927 as a writer. He anticipated socialism, global wars, space travel, and women's liberation. He then died in 1946. So that's the film.
That's the movie. All right, well, which performance would you guys hold up? Jeff?
I think you got to hold up Mary Steenburgen's performance as Amy Robbins. I think I think she was 19 or 20 years old when this movie's made. It's pretty impressive, and she doesn't seem that young. Maybe it's 1979, a little bit of maturity, but she seems like she's mid to late 20s. So she's got a lot of she seems worldly, and I just think the way she portrays the character is quite good. She impressed me in this movie.
Hmm?
Agreed. I'm
most impressed I've ever been with her in a movie.
But
But I'll pick David Warner. I thought he was legit creepy.
yeah, he was good too. It was, for basically being a 3-person main cast, they held this film together.
And
Yeah,
you,
I
Murphy,
dug it.
you went with Steenburgen?
Yeah, I went Steenbergen. She's gorgeous. She was funny. She really made the whole thing more believable. If it was just Malcolm McDowell, I would kind of probably fell in out of favor with the film. He didn't really.
He was
add
a bit
lot.
flat.
Yeah, he was a little flat.
He was sort of just moved the movie along and brought you two scenes with either David Warner or Mary Steenburgen to entertain you. But he was sort of just like the vehicle.
Yeah, he was the Batman.
He was the Batman. Yes.
This was the Dark Knight. We've been over
It
this.
was the Dark Knight. I've come to the realization, thanks to Jeff Mater, that time after time.
If you've seen the Dark Knight, you've seen this movie.
You'll never
It's
watch
half as long.
You'll never watch The Dark Knight ever again and not think about Malcolm McDowell.
Well, Jeff mentioned it a bit earlier, but the setting aesthetic, Murphy, you're always worried about that type
it
of
was
thing.
gorgeous. God, he's so angry because I ripped on that silly little cabin movie. So yeah, no, it was great setting and aesthetic. I thought it was very relevant of the time. It was polished. It was good lighting. It was just it was interesting effects for the time machine. I enjoyed it for a product of 1979. Yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, look good.
I think it was fantastic.
Good.
The shots of San Francisco and like even the scene where they're in like the restaurant that spins around, like just I thought it was I feel like you don't get that anymore in movies where you get a real snapshot of the time and the place. And this movie
no
did
one
that.
puts that kind of time into anything like that anymore.
No.
So we'll just do it in post. Like we'll just make it look smooth in post. Like I love seeing that in a movie, like you say, like a great setting. Someplace on Earth I've never been before. I mean, that's what I love about Medicine Man that we watched on this show. It's just beautiful. It's all in the jungle, and they climb canopies, and you have all these canopy vistas that you see. I mean, it's freaking beautiful. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's time for. Get some delicious morsels for us, Murphy.
Yeah, movie morsels for the film Time After Time from 1979. This was the film debut of Corey Feldman. He was the young kid who.
I thought that was him.
His mom. Yeah. What was going on?
Uncredited though.
Probably.
Because I was looking for him in the credits and he was not there. So I'm like, oh, maybe it wasn't him.
No, that was definitely Corey Feldman.
Crazy.
All four of the real H.G.Wells children were still alive at the time of this film's release.
Oh, wow.
Wells always
And
refers to his time machine.
Sorry, I was gonna say I think his son became a director too.
Oh,
Or his
crazy.
grandson.
I think
Sorry,
so.
his grandson. His grandson.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Wells always refers to his time machine simply as the time machine or the machine. When the machine is first shown, however, the name Argo is visible on the front. This is the name H.G. Wells gave to his machine in the novel that inspired the film. The movie's title inspired Cyndi Lauper's song Time After Time, when in 1983 she browsed through a copy of TV Guide for imaginary song titles.
I did not know
deleted
that. That's
scene-
amazing.
Right? A deleted scene featured Wells meeting a punk who was playing an extremely loud boombox music on a bus in San Francisco. Nicholas Mayer later reused this idea in Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home. Stevenson commits 6 murders over the course of the film, which we have now discovered is actually 7, if you count the John Doe at the hospital. 1 in London in 1893 and 5 in San Francisco in 79. The film itself takes place over a little less than a week from the perspective of H.G. Wells and Stevenson, the historical Jack the Ripper, killed, either both. A total of the 5 women over the course of 11 weeks from August to November in 1888. During chase scenes at the hotel, David Warner is replaced with a stunt double for distant shots because he was still on the mend from 2 broken ankles. In close-up shots, he can be seen running gingerly as not to hurt himself. Also, for scenes where Malcolm McDowell was running through the columns, he is also replaced with a double because of a sprained ankle. So David Warner and Malcolm
What's
McDowell
up with these guys and their ankles?
both weak ankles.
They got a
Ankles
lot of
back
thin
in.
ankled actors over there in England, don't they?
They could do a few squats, maybe a couple toe taps.
It makes you wonder how Soren had that fight with Kirk with those bad ankles on the those
On a
rickety
cliffside.
on the
Oh,
cliffs
yeah.
of the rickety thing of the metal
Jeez.
bridge he was on.
Just sneeze.
Sir Patrick hasn't got no weak ankles. I'll tell you that
No.
much.
No.
No, sir.
The role of Amy Robbins went to Mary Steenburgen, obviously. However, the studio had wanted Sally Field. Director Nicholas Mayer's first choice was his girlfriend Shelley Hack. She reportedly didn't want to become famous due to her boyfriend's help, but she did accept a small role as a docent at the museum H.G.Wells transports into. The scenic elevator in the Hyatt Regency Hotel is the same elevator used in the Towering Inferno from 1974 and High Anxiety
great
from
movie.
1977. Oh, such a good movie, Towering Inferno. Amy Robbins was the name of H.G.Wells' second wife in real life. However, despite the romance of the film, the real-life marriage of H.G. Wells and Amy Robbins was anything but blissful. Wells cheated on his wife repeatedly and was unapologetic about it. In fact, he was so egotistical that he told friends that men ought to be allowed to have as many mistresses as they please, while wives, though Wells said, must be chastised for appearance's sake. Yeah.
For appearance. Different time. Different.
It's all appearances, you know.
As Jeff mentioned earlier, in this film, Mary Steenburgen played Amy Robbins, a 20th century woman who falls in love with a time traveler from the 9th century. And in Back to the Future Part 2, she played Clara Clayton, a 19th century woman who falls in love with a time traveler from the 20th century. In the theatrical release, when Wells and Amy are out to dinner, he says the food is far superior to that Scottish place I breakfast. She asks what place he says McDonald's, referring to an earlier scene, but apparently the producers didn't have permission to use the name McDonald's in the film, although they still had the sign and the golden arches.
They did.
So he's obviously heard us saying McDougal's, so they can get past that little bit.
Yeah, McDougal's. The Scottish.
And then, I mentioned earlier about the plastic. He was mentioning the wood. That's because it was basically what was happening was back in the beginning of the 20th century, because of the amount of ivory that was being used in the production of piano keys and billiard balls, the demand for ivory was outstripping the supply. And as a result, scientists worked to create an artificial replacement, which eventually resulted in the creation of bakelite, the world's first plastic. Cinematography by Paul Lohman, edited by Don Cambrin. Music by Miklas Rosa, who had won an award for this film for that music. I think it was also his last film. Release date was September 7th, 1979 at TIFF, and September 28th, 1979 in the United States. Running time of 112 minutes. Budget of $1.2 million with a box office of $13 million. And that is Time After Time.
Do you know, I have one further morsel that you didn't mention.
Do it.
Do you know who was supposed to play Jack the Ripper? Well, the studio wanted instead of Nicholas Meyer? Mick Jagger.
Instead of David Warner, you mean?
Yeah, instead of David Warner, sorry. They wanted Mick
That would
Jagger.
have been awful. That would have been awful.
That would have been awful, and I'm surprised I didn't see
And
that
so would Sally
catch.
Field. I didn't like that either. I liked the cast they ended up with. Rewatchability.
Yeah, the cast is great. Rewatchability? Like, what is it, out of a 10?
I like this movie, but I don't know that I ever need to
Just
see it
yes or
again.
no.
Oh,
There's
yes
just
or no?
not a lot there.
Yeah, I would show someone that hasn't seen it before and rewatch it
Yeah.
with them. But other than that, no, I wouldn't just pop it on for a rewatch.
Yeah, I can't say I'm gonna go out of my way to rewatch it again. But if somebody's like
Not a lot of
Malcolm
meat.
McDowell film that has never seen it, I would be like, oh, we gotta at least watch this. Like, I do love time machine movies. Like, one of my favorites is like the Time Machine with like Guy Pearce, I think.
Which was directed by
early
H.G. Wells'
2000s.
grandson.
Was he? Yeah. That's actually the
Yeah.
film I would have gone with if Davan and I didn't switch places for this episode. So, you know.
All right,
where
the
we're
big
at.
question. Does it hold up? Jeff.
I think it holds up as like a rom-com type movie. It's like that's kind of how I would watch it, like as like a date movie.
Yeah, it's a good date movie.
I think it does hold up as a rom-com. It's better than most modern rom-coms I've seen.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It definitely holds up, especially as a rom com.
A
Not
little
the
less on the calm. There's not a whole lot of comedy. It's more like they've replaced some of that with like a bit of suspense and
yeah, it's like romance mystery suspense, but there's not too much
Yeah.
mystery and there's not a whole lot of
It's interesting.
suspense. Yeah, it's mid level, but yeah, it holds up.
all right. That's an A movie. Time
Now,
after
I-
time.
I I forgot the cue of playing the trailer. Usually, I like rewatching the trailers after seeing a film to kind of like pick out the scenes. I'm gonna leave this up to the panel. We can rewatch this for funsies, or we can just move along.
Move along.
The move along the trailer. Yeah, I've already watched it. It is
cool.
good, but yeah, that's it. We don't need to watch it.
The trailer for Sphere will be way more strange. It's like,
Yeah,
it's a strange movie. There's just these are three very different time travel movies. That's for sure. It's a good plate we've put down here. Yeah, does it hold up? So we'll move on to our next movie, over to Theater 2.